Good evening and welcome everyone to Premier League Forecast. My name is Kev. Tonight I am joined by Luke, by Patrick from Back of the Nest, and Jack from the Talking Ballacks podcast. Evening everyone, how are we all? All good?
Not too bad.
Good, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kev.
All right. Best way to look, we're just going to focus really on four main games that we've decided on. And the thing is, there's 10 games over the weekend. If you try to analyze all 10, you haven't got a hope in hell. And it's just a mind melt. So we're just going to do the four. We're going to start off with arguably the biggest game of the weekend, which is Chelsea Spurs. All right. Luke, how do you see this one? I mean, it's a top of the table. It's an important clash for top six, top four. Both clubs have ambitions of titles, of silverware. They've both spent big. So how do you see the importance of this game going into the season?
I think it's a massive game for Spurs, especially. I think their record at Stamford Bridge, is won once in 29 years. And they've definitely got a bit of a mental block when it comes to playing Chelsea. And if Spurs are serious of wanting to finish third and maybe even push for the title, these are the sort of games against your rivals where you need to win these games, or especially not lose these games, because we could see Spurs win, or we could easily see them lose at Stamford Bridge, and then be like, oh well, it's just the same old Tottenham. Yeah, great summer, but mentality's still the same. And they'll be lucky to finish top four. So it is big mentality-wise for them. And it is big for Chelsea as well. Chelsea spent loads of money, probably going to be spending more money with the transfers that have been linked. So it's massive pressure for Thomas Tuchel as well, because he's going to be spending a lot of money. And if he doesn't get off to a good start, then people could be looking at him thinking, maybe you need to get the chop. So it's a massive game for both the teams. It's a rather do not lose rather than do not win. I don't think either side would want to lose to another.
Yeah. Patrick, is what Luke was saying there, is that pretty much the way these games tend to go with sides that are in and around you, be it top of the table, mid-table, bottom half, wherever, early in the season, it's at all costs don't lose, but get a win if you can.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's early in the season, but right now I'm picking both Chelsea and Tottenham to finish top five. So from that standpoint, they don't want to lose a match, either one of them. I think Spurs have done some great business in the window, and Chelsea are just getting started as far as, if they get the players they want to get through, we've been rumored to get through, of late. If they get, let's say, Fofana in, and other players that are rumored to come in, they could make a real big push in, and they've gotten rid of some players of late. So I think it's kind of a game where they just don't want to lose. It's Sunday, it's a late Sunday match. It's a good game. I'm looking forward to it, but again, I don't think either one wants to lose this early in the season to what was going to be a top five rival.
Jack, are Spurs still Spursy? Do you think Conte has got that mentality, his philosophy into these players over his short tenure at the club? And do you think that the players that were still there under previous, let's face it, they got Nuno to chop, they've got Pochettino to chop. Are these players capable of taking on what Conte wants to do?
You'd hope so, because they're all, if you look at their squad, they've got really, really good players. No matter how you try and swing it, there's a few players that maybe you'd replace, granted, but they're not as good as City, Liverpool, obviously, but they have got quality littered throughout that team. And actually what they've done in the summer window is they've bought players to facilitate that. Spurs are not the type of team that would sign Richarlison when there's no guarantee he's going to play. Normally with Spurs and teams like Spurs, Arsenal, they kind of lose a player and then bring a player in to replace them, but they've bolstered an already really strong front three. In terms of whether they're Spursy or not, I think the result against Arsenal at the end of last season, if they were Spursy, that's the type of game that they would lose and not get into the top four. And considering that actually really they didn't get off to the best start under Conte, them getting into the top four, I think, was huge. I think the proof will be in the pudding this season. about whether they are Spursy or not. If they can actually be that next best team, because I know a lot of people have tipped them to disrupt Liverpool and Man City. I can't see it personally, but I think they've got a very strong chance of being the next best team.
Best of the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be honest. I look at both of them, and there's an awful lot of ifs in there. But if things go well for either one, anything's possible. Spurs have bought really well for what they needed to do. They needed to solidify Champions League going forward. I think Perisic is one of those players that you're only going to get a year, 2 years out of him, but that's enough. You know, you don't have to future plan with every single signing. And someone like him, Richarlison is cover for Kane, for any of the front three, to be honest, because you can play along the front three. Jet Spence a gamble. Just because you did it in the Championship doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do it at the top end of the Premier League. And we have the same problem with Carvalho in that respect, where just because you were brilliant in the Championship, there is levels to this game, you know, and jumping into a top flight Premier League side, pushing for honours is a big push. It's a big gamble for me. But the way I see this one going, I got to be honest, I was pretty impressed with what Spurs did and how they played first game of the season. I don't think they'll have any fear going to Stamford Bridge. I think Chelsea are still trying to find themselves.
Can I just chime in there, Kev? I think Spurs have got what Chelsea need, and I think Chelsea have got what Spurs need. Like Chelsea defensively are really good. I know they'd probably be happier with a third centre half, but when you look across their back line, they've got Chilwell, now they've got Cucurella, they've got Reece James, they've got Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, Koulibaly. If you compare that to Spurs' defence, there's not really a competition there. But then when you compare Spurs' front line to Chelsea's front line, Sterling obviously improves them. But if you think, like, Chelsea fans would be more than happy to have Kane, Son, Kulusevski up front. So I think what Chelsea lack, Spurs have, and I think what Spurs lack, Chelsea have. So it's going to be a really interesting battle across the season for two teams if Chelsea don't end up signing a third centre half, I think. But that's just
I think it's fair. I just don't know. Well, Patrick, on Chelsea's options to go for, say, Wesley Fofana, do you think this new owner? Because look, as far as you're in the States, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, do you think because the ownership model that was touted when the new owners took over at Chelsea was along the lines of American sports? Do you think that the scattergun, what seems to be a scattergun approach to their transfer policy so far, will they go for Wesley Fofana at all costs and save face, or is there do you see a cutoff point in their business where they're willing to walk away?
I don't think there is. I mean, I think Todd Bowley owns the LA Dodgers, I guess, the baseball team over here. So I don't think there is a cutoff, honestly. But looking at who they've already gotten, as mentioned before, they've got Cucurella, they got Carney Chukwuemeka, that really good player for under 19 England in 1 Euros, excellent player from Aston Villa. Yeah, I know a lot of money.
I think he only had a year left in his contract as well.
Right, and he didn't want to sign a new one, so they kind of had to sell him or lose him. They got Slonina, the keeper from over in Chicago, Koulibaly, we mentioned, and Sterling. I mean, they've made some good buys, and again, I think they're in for, aren't they in for the player that Man United won, the midfielder? De Jong. I mean, if they get Frankie De Jong, I mean, from underneath Man United, after all that's going on, and then like you just mentioned, maybe go for Fofana. That's some great business. So again, it does look kind of scattergun, but I think there's a method to his madness. I think he just wants to go out there and get the best quality players and stuff, and give him the Tuchel, say, go ahead and play him. I mean, even at the the Aubameyang league makes no sense, except if you realize that when Aubameyang was at Dortmund under Tuchel, he was brilliant. So it makes a lot of sense, and they need a striker. I mean, Chelsea need a striker now that they've lost Werner back to Red Bull. So it does. I really think that Bowley has a plan. I don't think it's a great idea for him to be his own director of football. I think that's kind of temporary. But I think right now, coming in, he's got tons of money to spend. He's just going to go out and buy the best player for Tuchel and say, here, just do your best.
Yeah, and Luke, there's a lot being talked about forward lines in the league with Haaland and Nunez and what have you. But I gotta be fair. That Spurs front three is as good as
up there.
anything in Europe at the minute when they're flying. How do you think Kulusevski has done in what you've seen so far? Do you think there's more to come from him?
Yes, I do think so. I think when he signed for Spurs, I was a bit like, oh, he's barely played at Juve. If he starts off slowly, he'll be like, yeah, we're not going to accept the the option to buy. Should we get Champions League football? But he has sort of, taken me by surprise. I think he's slotted in really, really well. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. I think that's why he's done so well. I think his big test is when people work out what's he going to do. I then see how he adapts once defenders have worked him out, which I still think defenders are still trying to work him out. So I do expect him to have a lull period, probably after the World Cup. And it will be how quickly can he adapt from people figuring out, oh, he's going to cut in on his left, shoot, or is he going to go down the outside? So it's going to be really interesting to see how he sort of, adapts once defenders know what to do against him.
In fairness, mate, people have been trying to do that with Mo Salah for 6 years.
Yeah.
For a one-season wonder, he's 1 goal behind Steven Gerrard now.
Yeah.
In the chat is I'm not even gonna. Sas Coppais is Matt. He's over from Canada in Dublin at the minute. Chelsea must get another centre back. Matt, let us know in the chat how your first day in Ireland was. How did you get on with it? Hopefully you enjoyed the warm weather. Dublin is amazing. There's a pub on every block, it seems. Yeah, you'll fit right in. You wait until you meet up with the boys on for the Manchester United game. They'll show you the ones that you've missed, and there's going to be plenty. But I mean, let's do scores on the doors. Jack, how do you see this one going? If you're your last fiver before 3 days before payday, and you have to walk into X bookmaker, what are you doing?
I think it's a really good chance for both teams to lay down a marker. I think Conte going back to the bridge, he's one of their managers who loves to prove a point. So I'm going to back Spurs to win. Couldn't put a score on it, but I think Spurs to win.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, if you were putting the scores on the doors there, what do you reckon?
Well, it's at Chelsea, right? It's a Chelsea home match, Stamford Bridge.
Yeah. They don't travel well there, so
yeah. I was going to say I would have backed Spurs. That front line is amazing, but being that it's at Chelsea, I'm probably going to go for a 1-1 draw.
And Luke?
Took my result. I was going to go for a draw.
I was sitting on the fence.
I'll go. I'd rather Chelsea win because I don't think they'll challenge for the title. So I'm going to go with the Chelsea win.
Yeah, sorry, I got Spurs winning 2-1. No, I don't think. While Chelsea are settled-ish at the back, they haven't been tested yet, and their front line still has a long way to go before there's any kind of fluidity.
They're missing a focal point, aren't they? They're missing that focal point of the attack.
Massively. It's something actually. Do you remember going back a few years ago when they had the likes of Olivier Giroud, or even Lukaku to a point, Drogba before that in years gone by? That's one player to play off the rest. It's, I mean, I'm one of these people on this channel that waxed lyrical about Giroud for years. I honestly think he was so underrated for what he did. He was one of the best out there at what he does, and those type of centre forwards are a menace, and they're a dying breed in the game, to be fair. Yeah. But look, we'll see how that one is the main game. It's going to be the one that's going to draw most media attention anyway. But Jack, you've got a interesting trip tomorrow, 3 p.m. kickoff, I think, yeah?
Yeah, 3 p.m. away at Arsenal. Can't say I'm overly looking forward to it, to be honest. But it's the exact type of game where Leicester will get a result. It's like when the chips are down, it's the type of game where we go and nick it 1-0, like 2-1, or just get a draw. It's that kind of game. We've always, even like before we've obviously ascended up to the top end of the Premier League, is exactly the sort of thing we do. We had a really good record when we were in the Championship of losing to the lower teams and then beating the big teams the week later. It's just how we've always been. So I'm not particularly confident, but we could definitely nick a result. We've got the qualities to nick a result, but Arsenal are just in the ascendancy, and there seems to be a little bit of stagnation around us at the moment. But
what's the story with Fofana? Has he travelled with the matchday squad?
Yeah, he's so Rodgers and the board, by all accounts, have made a really, really big deal about the fact that he's going to stay in the squad because they don't want to sell him. Like, apparently, even if there was a gentleman's agreement, which I don't agree with when you're signing a contract, but gentleman's agreement that he was going to go in 2023, and he's contracted for 5 years. So if he's contracted for 5 years, he was happy to sign it. His agent was happy to sign it without a release clause. So got to suck it up, I'm afraid. He's travelled with the squad. He played the full game last week, played reasonably well. So, but he's got, if all the rumours on social media are to be believed, he's now getting a bit of a reputation of being somebody that likes to force moves from clubs. So if he goes to Chelsea and there's somebody comes sniffing for him like PSG in a few years, would he do it again? Because he's got a track record of it now, unfortunately.
Interesting one. Patrick, you guys played Arsenal last week. First game of the season. How did you think you did? What did you make of the Arsenal that you saw? Because go on, I'll say what I think after. What do you think?
So, first match of the season, we had done well against them last season, drew away, beat them at home. But we had a little bit of a disjointed preseason. I think kind of showed. We didn't really come into the game till second half. But we really did have two clear-cut chances to score. First half, Edward had a header, 6-yard box saved, and then Eze had a chance second half. But honestly, that Arsenal team is different than last year. And I'll tell you the two reasons why I think it is. I think one is that I think Arteta's done a good job of kind of bringing in some decent young players and some good professionals now. The addition of Gabriel Jesus is going to be a massive difference for them. Last year, Lacazette couldn't get in behind any defense, especially not ours, and we just dropped off and played them. Now having Jesus who will go get in behind, he can drop for the ball. It's a big difference. And William Saliba is a very, very good centre half.
Yeah, he's all right, big, isn't he?
He's strong and he's quick. Yeah, we had a lot of trouble against him last week, a lot of trouble. So those two players, Saliba and Jesus, I think Zinchenko will be a difference too. I think makes them a better team than they've been. And, I just think that they're going to be definite. I would be shocked they don't finish top 4 this season. And I know the joke is about last year, they fell out of it because of Tottenham, but I'd be shocked if Arsenal don't finish top 4 this year. I really would be shocked because they look much better.
Or else I'll lose out on money. I hope they don't finish top 4. I've got bets in it. So I don't
want them to either. I do not like Arsenal, but based on what I've seen, and it's only based on one match, but they look really good. They really do.
Well, Luke, first game of the season, Friday night. What did you make of the Arsenal performance? And with Leicester going there, do you think Arsenal are just well, what do you think? Because for me, Arsenal can be that or that. I don't think there's a middle ground.
Agreed.
And Leicester being 2-0 up, being paid back. Yeah. It seems to me this is a pick'em. Anything can happen in this game.
Yeah. I think with the Arsenal performance, they weren't that great. They were great for 25 minutes.
First half, they were great, weren't they? They really did move the ball well. Yeah.
Second half, if Palace had their finishing boots, that game ends in the draw.
That was it. Yeah.
Then we're going, well, Arsenal are back, aren't they? Can't hold out on a 2-0 lead. They draw 2-2. I thought Zinchenko was okay. He looked very shaky at left back. I thought Saliba looked great. He was definitely the man of the match for me. I thought he looked completely different. What a difference a top-class centre-back makes in your team, because I don't rate that Arsenal defence at all. And then, I thought Arsenal were great for 25 minutes, hung on at times against Palace, and that's why I don't think they'll finish top 4, because against someone that's going to finish them off, they probably lose that game. If Palace had a finisher up front, that game ends in the draw. But with Leicester, I think Rodgers could be in some big trouble this season, because I don't know what's going on at Leicester, because no one's gone out. Well, apart from Schmeichel, but no one's come in, which is odd, because they need a refresh.
Funny you should ask this, Jack, the Leicester fan. You were on a show with the lads the other week, and you briefly went into the story of what's going on with Leicester City.
I did.
If the floor is yours, because it is interesting. Look, you're getting offers now for, is it a case, for some of your players where are Leicester seen as a club where size can cherry pick, or do players want out? Is there disharmony? What's going on? I mean, I've got the basics of it with the finances, and you spent heftily over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But look, the floor is yours. You explain. You tell us.
Well, I've got two questions. The first, Kev, how much time have you got? And am I allowed to rant a little bit? Because it could turn that way. It could turn that way.
Yes, you have the floor, my son.
Right. I'll start with the basic thing. First of all, money's not the issue. Like we have got money. Like it's suddenly come out that Leicester's in debt, but what top level club isn't? You look at most clubs in the Premier League; they've all got some sort of debt. We've just paid for a new training ground. We're getting a stadium expansion. The money's there. The issue is we've got a bloated squad with too many high earners that are happy to sit on their backsides on the bench, not playing football. Yannick Vestergaard being a prime example. He said he wants to stay and fight for his place at Leicester right before a World Cup, when the manager of Denmark's come out and said he only wants players in his squad that are playing. And he's gone, no, I'm not going to go to Fulham. I'm going to sit on the bench at Leicester as fifth choice centre-half, when he could have gone to Fulham and played probably quite regularly at Fulham, because I had a Fulham fan on my podcast, and we both sort of said that a centre-half might be the difference between them staying up. Now they've got Issa Diop instead, who's, in my opinion, for Fulham, a good centre-half. But he's happy to sit on his backside. We've just got rid of Chowdhury, but for some reason have activated a year extension because he'd have been out at the end of the year. And that, I think, is to try and incentivize Watford to try and buy him. But if he has a poor season at Watford, they'll just send him back and you're back to square one again. So it's at what point do you cut those ties? We've got too many players on high wages that aren't kicking the ball. We had big injury problems last year. We had too many players with their, as I've just seen pop up there, Pereira out for 6 months. Yeah, exactly. We've lost, and he's a fantastic player.
You know what? I just want to say one thing. You don't have to be a Leicester fan to look at Ricardo Pereira and just that poor guy. He cannot catch a break.
He was. I'm not. I don't think I'm like being too like. I don't think I'm over sensationalizing when I say this, but pre-COVID, he was as good as Trent and as good as Walker and Cancelo. He, in terms of form, he was.
Oh, he was up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
He was, and that's not me sensationalizing. That's not any bias. You can see based on the drop off, not just of him but of the team as well. When he was flying, we were right at the top of the table. We were like, people were saying we were going to challenge Liverpool for the title and stuff like that, which I thought was ridiculous. Like, do you know what I mean? But at that time, around Christmas, before you came to us and pumped us 4-0, like we were doing really well, and everyone thought we were on for the top four at least. And we all know what happened there. Yeah. But it's too much money. I think we've had that model for a long time of we still buy cheap, develop, sell high. That's the idea. But you look at Soyuncu, he had a big falling out with Rodgers last year. His agent was kind of telling him, oh, yeah, you'll get big moves. You'll go to a big club. That's going to happen. And then he believed it. So he thought, oh, I'm not going to perform anymore. Fell out with Rodgers. And now
out of players, eh? Where have I heard that before?
Yeah.
But isn't this a problem where, because we saw this with Southampton when we almost had a discount card at Southampton at one stage, but if you're going to be
it's our turn now. It's our turn now.
It's true. But if you're going to be that club who buys well, develops, you still have to sell.
Yeah.
No, is that the problem? Where you sold well up to a point, but now and the one summer that you didn't sell,
I think we bought poorly as well.
Noses out of joint there.
I think we bought poorly as well, though. I don't think it was just the fact that we didn't sell. I think we bought poorly. I think if we'd have bought well, last season would have been really different. I mean, you have to remember that last season, apparently, we didn't have a good season in domestically because we had a significant number of injuries that were huge injuries as well. Like we had our two best centre halves missing for most of the season. We had Maddison missing, we had Vardy missing, and Ndidi missed half a season. Like we had huge players missing for us. And we still finished 8th, 3 points behind West Ham, who apparently had an amazing season. So it's like
that's fair.
But that shows the level that everyone expects Leicester to be at now. Like, do you know what I mean? It's one of them. We had a bad season and we finished 8th, and we've lost Schmeichel. And I said this with the lads the other night that there's been rumblings of him leaving for a while. Like he's gone on record publicly to say he wanted to play European football again, and I think a lot. And he probably had his worst season in the Premier League last season.
His form's been going down and down.
He doesn't command his box well. I'm not being funny. Like Danny Ward, he's not as good as Kasper Schmeichel. I'm not even going to go there. But
No.
in terms of commanding his box, Ward was coming out and punching, collecting crosses on Saturday, and that was things that Schmeichel just wasn't doing. Like his starting position from set pieces, Schmeichel would be glued to his line, wouldn't come out, sort of tries to buy the foul, stuff like that. Whereas Ward, his starting position was about 4 yards off his line. He was literally saying, I'm gonna come and win this. He wasn't letting people pin him in. And I think that's kind of Schmeichel's an incredible shot stopper. I think he's one of the best shot stoppers the league's ever seen. But in terms of his all-round play, that's why he's never moved to a big team, because he hasn't got the all-round goalkeeping ability that Ederson or Alisson and people like that have.
So, question there in the chat, Jack: is Rodgers the manager you want? My spin on that would be: does Brendan have a shelf life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big problem is his wage, because he's the fourth. I mean, I'm going to say it again on air. He's the fourth highest paid manager in the league, which is just ridiculous.
Oh, come on!
He's definitely not. He's definitely no. It's 8 million a year. 8 million a year is on. Fourth highest paid manager in the league. I know, which is why sacking him is just. And the only time we'll sack him is if we are literally staring down the barrel of relegation, which I don't think we will be, because I think our squad is, even if we lose Fofana, like the squad's too good for that. I mean, even people saying we're going to finish 14th, 15th, we'd have to have another injury crisis to do that. Because if we do sell Fofana, we get 90 odd million for him, we'd be able to reinvest that, because we reinvest well usually.
Right.
But is he the right man to take us forward? Who would you bring in that's better? Like the only person out there who you would say who's readily available is Pochettino, who wouldn't
Kevin Ball is a great shout there, actually.
Yeah, but
Graham Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'd be paying a lot to get him out of there, I think.
Yeah.
And would he want to come, because he's got a good thing going there? Is he
do
holding out for a bigger job?
I think personally, that he's the ideal candidate to replace Southgate if the FA are brave enough to do it. But it doesn't. They are.
Yeah,
I just don't see it. Patrick, I wanted to touch with you on Patrick Vieira, and he's into his second season. I gotta admit, when I saw the appointment first time of Patrick Vieira, I thought that's a bit odd. You know,
right.
I mean, it was just a left field appointment, bearing in mind the Hodgson era and the way that Hodgson had Palace playing, and the transformation that Patrick has made in the year. How do you think he kicks that on?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm very happy with the appointment. I really am. The appointment's great. We're playing modern football now. Under Hodgson, it was sit back, soak up pressure, try and counter attack. That doesn't work in the Premier League anymore. You've got to have, ball playing centre halves. You've got to have playing out the back. You've got to, control the midfield. You have to press better, etc. So, I love what he's doing. The next step is a good question, because last year was surprising the fact that he kept us up comfortably, which I didn't expect us to be kept up comfortably. I expected to stay up, but not as easy as he did. And we got the FA Cup semi-final, which is a major surprise. Getting the FA Cup semi-final was a major surprise. I mean, I didn't expect to beat Chelsea, but just being there was great for us. So where do we go from here is a great question, because my concern this season is I think we can finish mid-table, like 10th comfortably, if we keep Zaha, which is going to be massive, because there's rumblings about maybe Chelsea want to come in to get him, or other teams, or him want to go to Europe maybe. And how do we incorporate some of our newer signings? So we've got Czech Decore, who I really love, but he's coming from France, and it's a new league. Lons, he's a ball playing defensive midfielder who I really like. So he's going to be good, but he's not there yet. We lost Benteke. Now people say last week, no big deal. He hasn't scored goals in years, and he really hasn't. But he was important to have around the squad, as far as, if we, there was a spell last season around Christmas where he scored like 3 or 4 goals in like 5 matches. And then Vieira switched up to Mateta. We thought signing permanent. He went on a little bit of a streak and was good towards the end of the season. But we need someone to score 15 goals for us this season. And that's my concern, is that we don't really, like I just told you before, the Arsenal game was a matter of just finishing. We just didn't finish. We played well enough. Possession under Hodgson, I think, was about 40%. Last season, under Vieira was 52%, and then last week it was about 54% against Arsenal. So
you actually
the whole
got-
style of play is different. So
Yeah.
No, you control. For all the praise that Arsenal got, Palace had more of the ball.
yeah,
They had the same amount of efforts, and they had the same
On
amount
goal,
of
right.
efforts on goal.
exactly.
Now, you've got two strikers. I liked Edward when he was in Scotland.
Yeah.
Celtic, yeah.
I'd be honest. There's a few people touting at him to maybe bring in. When we were looking to get rid of Origi, maybe we could have looked for that physical type striker that he was,
Right.
and look under Klopp to maybe develop him. But Palace took the punt on him, and then you've got Matete as well.
Right.
But the one I like a lot is Michael Elise. I
love him. He's brilliant.
I love him to the state where I would take him over Saka to be a backup to Mo Salah, purely and simply because I honestly believe that he's got a higher ceiling, and I think being that bit younger, I think he's as quick. I think he's confident. How do you see the plan for him? Because long term, you want to keep him as long as possible. I get that, but is it similar to what Leicester did with players like Maguire? You get that one gen, you bring him on as much as you can, and then you cash right in, and then reinvest in the club again, or how's it going to work? Because there's also rumblings that Conor Gallagher could be coming onto the market again, and maybe Palace might go back in for him again.
So I'll get to Gallagher in a moment because that could be massive, but I don't want to talk about him all the time because we can talk about him every week until the market's closed. With Elise, the thing with him is that he's a little fragile. Now he's injured at the moment. Just heard today from Vieira, he actually trained all week, which is great. He hurt his foot end of last season, so it might be in the squad for Monday, which would be brilliant. I think Vieira's done a great job of how he's brought him on. I think he's taken his time, hasn't rushed me, but are you playing on that right side? But he says a different kind of a player. He's got that cultured left foot. He's a inverted winger. He can cross a ball. He can shoot a ball. He makes great passes. But he's young. He's only 19.
Yeah,
20. I just turned 20 actually. He's still very, very young. So I don't think that model of us buying players and then selling them on is really what we do anymore. I thought that was the way we were going when we bought like we bought Eze, for instance, 2 years ago from QPR. But I think we're going to try and now develop players and try and keep them for longer, because even with we just signed a player from Derby, Malcolm Aboué, who's a lot like Zaha and a lot like Elise. Trust me on that. He's only 18 actually, very young.
He's brilliant. Honestly, I watched him at Derby last year. So good.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to bring him on very, very, very natural and everything that he does. Shy kid, you can tell. I see him in the interviews after the match. He's very shy, but he's another gem. So with Elise, like I said, I think we're going to look to trying to keep him unless now there's a rumor out there that he has a release clause that's like around 35 million. I would be if that's true, someone's going to trigger it at some point before the transfer window closes, because
you'd hope that's time linked, that it might be 35 million in 2023 or something.
Right,
like
and
that.
that's what I had heard. I heard it's not for this season. It's actually for next year.
Yeah.
So we're going to look. We're trying to get him for a better contract and then raise that release clause. But as far as he's concerned, I think we're going to try and keep him around, because again, him and Zaha on one side and Lisa on the other side are great. Really quickly get to Edouard. Edouard, I think this season is big for him. Now we got him in, last season, but it's first in the Premier League, and we all know first in the Premier League is from a new league is very difficult, especially for going from Scotland. But for me, he's got to fire this season for us to do anything this year, because we can't rely on just Mateta. Wolf scored, I think, 13 goals last year. We can't really rely on Wolf scoring those goals next year. So Edouard, for me, has got to score 15 goals this year for us to do anything this year.
I was going to ask you actually about Eze, the role he played. The role he played against Arsenal was almost like a part of a midfield three.
Right.
I didn't expect to see him in that. I see him more as a 10 or a second striker. How do you think do you think that's where he's going to develop through the season?
So let's go to Gallagher now. So we don't have Gallagher in there as an 8. So we don't really have a true 8, a box-to-box 8. So we're using now Decore as the holding midfielder, and then Jeffrey Schlupp as an 8. But Schlupp isn't, energy levels are like Gallagher, but he can't press like Gallagher. And what Gallagher brought us last year was that pressing. If you guys saw the Arsenal game last year with 3-0, Gallagher must have covered 15 kilometers in that match. He was brilliant. He was pressing the goalkeeper, the left back, the centre halves, everybody. It was brilliant. So not having him means that Vieira has changed its system slightly. Essex more of a 10. Now, he didn't play that way as much against Arsenal, but the goal is have him as a 10, just kind of give him free roll to kind of sit behind the striker, go left, go right, drop deep, collect the ball, create chances. And again, he created a great chance between him and Wilf last week, but just didn't convert it. But I think our style's going to change. Now, again, the rumors are, I heard it again from Vieira, that he's not our player, him being Gallagher. But Gallagher wants to get to the World Cup. He's not going to play for Chelsea this season. He's just not going to. There's no way. I've watched Tuchel's system. He doesn't fit the system. He'll play, Champions League every once in a while, maybe League Cup games, but he's not going to play enough to get into Southgate squad. So if he wants to play, his best chance to come back to Palace. But that happens or not, I don't know.
Sorry to put in there, Patrick. It really frustrated me watching the Chelsea-Everton game that he only got like 1 minute at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the match.
Gallagher's an outstanding player, and the fact that if that's how Tuchel's going to use him, he's better off. I know he loves Chelsea. I know he's a Chelsea fan, but he needs to find somewhere else to play if that's what he's going to do. Do you know what I mean?
Agree. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he'll come back.
Luke, we've listened to Patrick wax lyrical about Palace, and rightly so, because I was really impressed with how they played against Arsenal despite the result. But we're going to get into our game on Monday night in a second. But when you look at the two clubs, are they both going to be looking to occupy the same kind of landscape at the end of the season?
Who? Leicester and Palace?
Leicester and Palace, table-wise. Bearing in mind, Palace have the young, adventurous attacking side. Leicester have been there, seen it, done it, have the seasoned, experienced players, as well as a mixture of youth to come through. How do you see it going, bearing in mind the ambition? Look, I think Crystal Palace as an away ground, the atmosphere in that place when it's going is probably one of the best in the league. That can drag you points. If Palace can bring the fans with them, anything could happen there. And Leicester, at the minute, for me, it feels, it all depends on what happens in the next few weeks. A lot of things need to happen in the next few weeks that define the season for me. How do you see it, Luke?
I think for Palace to take that next step, as Patrick said, they need Edouard to hit that form that he had at Celtic. They need one of the forwards to take a step up because it can't be Zaha scoring all the goals. So for Palace to take that next step, they do need one of the forwards to click and have a 15-goal season along with Zaha. And with Leicester, it all depends on the end of this transfer window. Because if Leicester lose Tielemans, Fofana, and don't replace them, then they're going to be in for a long season, and I can expect them to finish 10th, maybe a little bit below. So I will probably say that they'll probably finish like Leicester 11th, Palace 12th. I do expect them to finish quite close. But yeah, that's where I think they'll finish. I think Leicester are going to have a slight down year because I think Rodgers is going to end up getting sacked at some point this year.
Right. Listen, on that note, with Brendan vanishing, look, I'm sorry, I'm shit at the French. I've got to do I've just got to do the general housekeeping shit here. So you guys just going to have to bear with me a minute while I plod through this. Did you know that browsing online using incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? That's right. Without added security, you might as well give away all your private data to hackers, advertisers, your ISP, and other prying eyes. So, Luke, when you go into incognito mode, it doesn't work. So they say. IPVanish VPN, to make it easy to stay truly private and secure on the internet. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet by encrypting 100% of your data. This means that your private details, passwords, communications, browsing histories, and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands. Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online, and that it's as simple as that. You can use IPVanish on unlimited devices without sacrificing on speed, on your computers, tablets, phones, even devices like your Fire Stick if you're streaming media. Which, whether you're at home or in public, I don't go online anymore without using IPVanish. IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan to our listeners and viewers with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's just like getting 9 months for free. IP Vanish is super easy to use. All you use one click of a button and you're instantly protected. You won't even know it's on. Stop sharing with the world everything that you stream, everything you search for, and everything you buy. IP Vanish is rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. So go to ipvanish.com/daytrippers to claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/daytrippers, and away you go. That's me never doing this ever again. Ever. Bracky's back next week. I couldn't give a flying fiddlers. I am never doing it. Well, we don't. Red Steve, if you're in the chat, if you say one word, I swear to God, I'll dig my phone out and I will ban you. Anyway, Luke, Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football.
Cool temperatures as well, thank God. Because it's absolutely
I hope so.
blowing over the... Patrick, you're in New York, yeah? I don't know what it's like over in New York at the minute, but...
Hot, very hot.
I'm in rural Ireland, right? And it was 31 degrees. So you can imagine what it must have been like in a city in the UK at 34 and 35 degrees. Now, there's, I think, 3 p.m. kickoffs tomorrow. Hottest part of the day. I'm glad our game, with the way that we play and the way the Palace play, especially, I'm so glad our game is on Monday night. You know, because I'll be honest, I don't care if they get a minute water break tomorrow. I think players tomorrow's going to be, you can see some crazy results. You can see some crazy things happen tomorrow with the way the weather is. But Crystal Palace first coming to Anfield first. After what happened, well, you haven't been on a stream since the Fulham game. So what is your initial thoughts and what are you hoping to see against Palace?
What my thoughts on the Fulham game?
Yeah, it'll be quick.
Quick.
We're past the watershed, so you're all good.
Yeah, I thought the first half was shit. I thought it was really bad, sloppy. Looked like that they literally rolled out of bed after a heavy night out. It was like it wasn't great. It wasn't a great watch. That's probably one of the poorest first halves I've probably seen. And a common theme that Liverpool have brought in from last season, I think 7 out of the last 9 games, Liverpool have gone 1-0 down to win to 1-0 down, which is abysmal. Because the slow starts is, yeah, it's not great. And I'm just hoping this is not going to become a regular thing where it's like a slow start for the first half an hour, get caught cold, and then it's like, oh no, we need to wake up now because we're now 1-0 down. So, yeah, Fulham was crap. But on to Palace.
The problem that came out of the Palace game, came out of the Fulham game, was Thiago's injury. It's
shock.
The media reports are 4 to 6 weeks. Klopp in his press conferences, I hope for. So he didn't commit to any time scale, which he very rarely, if ever, does anyway. So we don't know. We've had a few good things happen at the club this week, though. You know, Harvey Elliott signed his new contract and an extension, and today Oakley Cannonier signed a new contract with the club as well. So there's little things that are happening, but do you expect anything major to happen in the next 3 weeks?
I don't know. If you see reports that aren't from England, Liverpool are looking to do something. But then you hear other people said, no, Klopp is completely happy, which I don't believe that he is completely happy.
2053, a long time.
Yeah.
No, I think we'll do something. We have got to do something. There's no way Klopp's gone, yeah, I'm happy with all my options when we put in £80 million for Tchouaméni at the beginning of the window. So he knows that the midfield needs work, and it's been neglected a little bit, which is concerning because the season's shorter. We've got a pretty injury-prone set of midfielders. Lots of pressure on the kids to step up. Elliot Carvalho, and the senior players have sort of regressed as well, which isn't great. And then there's the enigma of Naby Keita. Is he there or is he not?
Well, he's been there all week. So Klopp reckons he'll be available for Monday night.
I hope so.
I hope so too. Patrick, I'll be honest, you had a really good performance. You must be coming to Anfield pretty buoyant after our showing against Fulham and your performance against Arsenal. Because I'll be honest, the games against Palace, bar the one freak result, bar the 7-0.
The 7-0. That's a freak.
Yeah, the 7-0. Yeah, but bar that,
7-0.
they've generally been close, tight games that we've had to really work for it. So do you have confidence coming to Anfield for Monday night?
No, I don't. I would have honestly under any manager but Klopp, we did really well. I mean, under Brendan Rodgers, we were brilliant playing at Liverpool. Under Klopp, he just knows how to play against Palace. I mean, no matter who the manager is, I don't. As well as he played against Arsenal. Yeah, Allardyce is brilliant also. But, yeah, I mean, we had some great results. I mean, the Gerrard game, there's a ton of games. We played well, but of late, you talk about the 7-0. I mean, there's a 4-0, there's a 2-0, 3-0, 3-1. We haven't. I mean, even last year's game at Sellers when we lost 3-1, which was kind of close to the penalty at the end. I mean, that's the best we played against you guys in a long time. I don't have a lot of hope for Monday. I would gladly take a draw. The only thing that gives me any bit of hope is the injuries you have, especially in the midfield. But we just discussed our midfield. We've got Eze, Decore, and whoever. It's not Conor Gallagher. If it was Gallagher in there, I'd be much more looking forward to pressing the heck out of you. Imagine, wouldn't it? It's going to be Schlupp for sure, yeah. So from that standpoint, as you guys said, unless Edouard comes in on Monday and decides he's going to score a hat-trick, I don't have a lot of hope for us. Liverpool is just too good for us right now. I just don't have a lot of hope for us Monday. Again, I pray for a result because, again, I don't know if you guys know, we've got Villa next, then City away, then Brentford at home. It's not a great start. So to lose the first two matches on the bounce and then puts a lot of pressure on trying to beat Villa next week at home. Yeah. It's a tough start. So I will happily take a draw. But honestly, I'm not hopeful.
But Jack,
for Monday.
Jack, you're the neutral in the house. You've watched both sides in their opening fixtures. What do you make of it? Because I can't look at what we did last year and what Palace did last year. I'm looking at now. And if you're basing it on the performances of now, how do you see it going?
If we did just do it on the isolation of performances that happened last weekend, I think a draw would probably be about right. Because I think Liverpool... I don't think that's what's going to happen, Luke. Sorry. I don't think it's what's going to happen. But if we're just basing it on the performances so far, I think the draw is fair enough because I think Palace fairly resolute against Arsenal. Really, that second goal was quite lucky, and Arsenal didn't really do that much in the second half to get that second goal. But first half, they were good value for their lead. I think Palace, like we've said, if they had a little bit of a sharper blade, like they weren't quite so blunt going forward, they probably would have hurt Arsenal a little bit more. But Liverpool, Fulham was always going to be an interesting one because I think a lot of people that we spoke to said that Fulham, it's just, typical yo-yo, but this is a different Fulham team to the ones that have been about before. So they were massively up for it. They've got quality players. Marco Silva has actually instilled some sort of identity, and the players they've signed have improved them. Palhinha was, as poor as you guys were, Palhinha was fantastic in that game, and so was Mitrovic. Yeah, so was Mitrovic. So I don't, obviously, as a neutral, I don't think that performance was quite as bad as what you guys think. I think it was more that Fulham were just at the very top of their game, and you still managed to get a draw. Like Fulham probably had one of the best games they'll have all season. You still managed to get a draw. Yeah, I think really Liverpool will win because I think Klopp is the type of manager to say, get that out of your system. Let's go back to Anfield. Let's put everyone's mind at ease and let's win this game comfortably. I think if you score early, you win the game easy. But I think if Palace are allowed to frustrate you, then it makes the game really different. Personally, but it is very much whether you turn up or not.
Luke, Jack's put a really good point on it. Is if we allow Palace to frustrate us, how do you think our team selection will be to negate that? Bear in mind, as someone was said in the chat earlier on, Joel Matip is missed training. He missed today's session because of a slight groin thing. Apparently, it's nothing serious. It's just a precaution that they took him out of training today. I was watching the show last night when I think it was Emmett made a great point. I really like Anderson and his range of passing at Palace.
Oh, yeah.
I thought
I wanted him at Leicester. I wanted him at Leicester so bad
he
when
was
he went on loan.
outstanding.
Brilliant.
Outstanding delivery.
Range,
And
that's some-
it's not just the range of passing, it's the ability of Wolf Zaha to read it. Zaha was never offside. That ball was finding him so often, and he was never offside. So the ability to get in behind over our fullbacks. Emmett made the point that he would have started Joe Gomez anyway because of Joe Gomez's pace at centre back to read that. Because look, Trent is not going to sit back. It's just for anyone who doesn't know, Emmett is in the background doing all the producing tonight. So you're welcome, mate. But how do you think we line up for Monday night?
I guess the front three sort of speaks for itself. I think it'll be Diaz, Nunez, Salah. Yeah, I think so.
Nunez gets his first start.
Yeah, it's the midfield is the tricky one because I know people don't want Henderson to start, but I'd actually start Henderson and drop Fabinho because I thought Fabinho was so bad. It was really, really bad. And Henderson looked better when he dropped back. So my midfield would be Henderson, Keita, Elliott. But it will not surprise me if we see James Milner rock into that midfield. When he came on, he was the best midfielder. He was the best midfielder. And that is going to annoy every online fan when they see James Milner's name on the team sheet. It's not going to make me best pleased, but
I don't care. I love him. I'm of a certain vintage, and I remember him wearing a Strongbow T-shirt for Leeds United.
For Leeds, yeah.
And I remember watching him playing in those games. I love James Milner. I love his attitude. I love his commitment, and I love his professionalism. Yeah, and I honestly believe, he's a pros pro. And for us this season, he's the sub. He's the backup to the backup in virtually every midfield position and both fullbacks. He can do it all. And I don't think he'll start personally. But what would you say so you went with Alisson, Trent?
Yeah, we went Gomez,
Van Dijk, and Robbo.
Yeah.
You went with Henderson,
Keita, Elliott.
And a front three of Diaz, Darwin, and Mo Salah.
Yeah.
Okay, I would go with the same back four. Obviously, I'd go with Alisson as well. I think Fabinho needs to get that out of his system quick because, it's only one game a week and he needs to knock that performance. He was easily the worst of the three in midfield against Fulham. And I don't think that happens twice. I expect him to start. I think that Naby will probably start on the left. I think he's more comfortable on the left of the three than Jordan. I think Jordan Henderson in the left of a midfield three just isn't the same. He isn't as fluid. I like him. Don't get me wrong. I like him as a player. I don't get the disrespect that he's copping at the minute. It's just nonsense for me. But I think that if Naby's fit, he starts. I think Harvey starts. And the front three, I agree with you. I think Darwin has to start. He's deserved it on his performances so far. If he starts, it'll be his first start for the club in a meaningful game.
Interesting to see how he does when he starts.
Yeah.
Up against the defenders rather than when he came on.
And they're not poor centre-backs. They're not your Burnley type, your Tarkowskis, your Ben Mees. These two centre-backs at Palace are pretty mobile. They're quick enough. And they're decent in the air. There'll be a test for him. But I think Jamie Holm put a tweet up with the pitch maps for Bobby and for Darwin from the Fulham game.
Yeah.
And the average position for both. And I mean, apart from the eye test, that you could see what difference Darwin makes when he plays. He gives you so many different options, and if Mo's going to attract, I'd assume it's going to be Mitchell on the playing at left back.
It is.
and Gahey out to maybe double up on him, you're leaving Darwin with Anderson and probably Klein to come in on the cover.
Back. He will be, yeah.
And then you've got Diaz as well. So I just think he needs to start. For me, I just can't wait to see him. I'm so excited to see him because I think we're going to have so much fun watching him this season. I mean, all the talk has got to be on Haaland, and fine, rightly so. He's a star boy for the Premier League, and Sky love him and all that. And I think as the longer that happens, the longer it stays like that, the better. They leave Darwin alone to develop. There's no pressure on him. You know, the spotlight isn't on him. You know, Luke, what are you expecting to get to see?
Expecting a fast start, not a slow start. I don't really understand why Liverpool are starting so slowly off in games. I don't know whether or not they're trying to wait for the opposition to sort of get into their rhythm before we start getting into our rhythm. So what I'd be expecting is a quick start, high press, that high line, and sort of trying to box Palace in again and trying to press Anderson to make sure that he doesn't ping those 70-yard balls over to Wilfried Zaha. So that would be my game plan. We're just trying to press Palace in. So I didn't think Gahey had a great game against Arsenal. I thought he was definitely the weakest out of the two. So it's a big performance to him to get that Arsenal performance out of his system as well. Because I think Gahey's a great centre back.
Definitely.
Yeah. Patrick, what would your 1 to 11 be for Palace? What
I don't think it's different from Arsenal. So it will be Guaita in goal, Mitchell left back, Anderson, Gahey, Klein at right back, midfield three, barring a massive change in thought. It will be Schlupp, Decore, and Eze, and up front Zaha left, Edouard. Got to give him a run of games up front. Edouard up front over Mateta, and then Ayew. Even though I mentioned Olise being back in training, I don't think he'll throw him out there that first game. I think it'd be a massive sub at some point, like he did against Man City last year. Came on, Olise had a great impact. He was a very good impact sub last season, all season actually. So if he's in the squad, but honestly, I'd rather start with Ayew. He's more defensive. He can bring the ball up, draw fouls, sometimes score goals. It depends on how he's not the most clinical player in the world, but he can score on his day. He scored against Arsenal last season. So that's what I see. I really don't see a difference in the lineup from Arsenal. We need to start being a little bit more consistent. So I can see Vieira going with the same starting line for the next 3 or 4 matches, and then at some point bringing Olise back into the fold, etc. So,
well, the 5 subs gives you that option.
Exactly.
You can bring players in, give them time, and that could be a bonus. Jack, we'll just finish off on this one. Scores, any predictions, and goal scorers if you're going for a score.
I think Liverpool score early, probably end up running out, maybe 3-1 winners. I'll go for Salah double, Nunez off, if he doesn't start off the bench or just let it go. And then, I don't know, Eze for Palace. Why not? 3-1. 3-1 Liverpool.
I'll go 3-1 as well. I think it'll be Salah, Nunez, and I'll go Jordan Henderson gets the third. Just to watch Twitter burn.
Just to boil
him
He nearly did get the winner last week, to be fair.
That would have been so
toxic.
That would have been so toxic. Patrick, we'll finish up with yours. Scores and score line.
I mean, 3-1 sounds about right. I'll probably go 4-1, honestly. I'll probably
go to Palace, To Palace.
No, not to Palace. I mean, listen, I didn't want to come in here and be,
Oh,
I need to be honest.
All that.
So, no, I mean, I'm not that. I mean, I'm a supporter of Palace, but I'm not mad. Zaha to score, and for Liverpool, I mean, Nunez, Salah, Diaz. I'm not gonna say Henderson. I can't stand Henderson. Sorry, being honest. Trent probably gets one out of nowhere. Free kick probably.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I went 2-1. I think it'll be closer than what people think. I think Palace are going to be one of those sides this year that, shape-wise, they could be a tough nut to crack. I agree with what Luke said. If you get at them early, and what Jack said, if you can get a goal early, anything could happen. But even at 1-0, I think sides are playing Liverpool at the minute, and they have hope. Whereas you go against Man City and they're beaten in the tunnel. They're beaten in the tunnel. We saw that against West Ham, the way they bent over.
I've never seen West Ham. West Ham look just.
It was a joke.
It's the worst I've seen them play in a long time. That is.
Barely tickled a little bit. Then. Oh, thanks, West Ham. Cheers.
Yeah, I went 2-1. I think I could see Palace maybe scoring from a set piece. Edward, and I think Darwin will get 2. I think Salah's going to have a relationship with him like he had with Edin Dzeko when he at Roma.
Interesting.
You'll see. I think you'll see Salah. There's one thing I noticed, and I said it on the Sunday night show. When Darwin came on, Salah went at his fullback on his right side and his outside, and he very rarely does it. Right. But when if he goes at Mitchell on his right side early, Salah is confident, and Mitchell won't know what to do then, because if he can go on his outside or if he can cut back on his inside, left Harvey in behind him as well. I think. But saying that, I think Palace will be a tough nut to crack. But get an early goal, anything can happen. If it drags out, it'll be a long night. But I think 2-1. Look, with the fourth game, we'll just quickly touch on it. Is Brentford Manchester United. And we were going to his hands there. Well, we were going to chat about Villa and Everton, but to be honest, who cares?
Not much to talk about there, is it?
Brentford, Manchester United. Brentford done some really good business if you're a gambler this week. What do you make of the signing of Martin Damsgaard? 16.7 million. A player who was touted around last summer at 40 million.
Spurs, Liverpool were interested, I think.
Yeah, big clubs were looking at him.
Smart business, but that's like as Brentford, like that smart business is what they do because I think they picked up Thomas Strakosha on a free from Lazio, and a couple of seasons ago he was really highly touted as going to one of the bigger clubs because he was an excellent goalkeeper in Serie A. It will be interesting to see how they replace Ericsson to see if Damsgaard can step up, because up until Ericsson came in, I think there was a few people on the pod saying that Brentford looked like they were a sinking ship. They were heading straight for relegation. Right. But I think Ericsson sort of stopped that from happening, and then they sort of finished quite comfortably in the end. So it'll be very interesting to see if Damsgaard can sort of have that same role as Ericsson did when he signed. So it'll be very interesting to see how he fits in, because I quite like him as a player. I think he's a good player.
I'll let Luke open up on Manchester United in a minute. Patrick, Manchester United, what do you make of it? Because look, we're completely biased, and I'm not going to, I have no shame in that. But what's going on there with Ten Hag and their transfer situation, the club as a whole? I mean, yourself and Jack are removed from it because you're both neutral in this respect.
Right.
How do you see them after last week's performance, and what do you expect from them going to Brentford for their first away day?
Well, first, I totally rate the manager. I think Ten Hag's a brilliant manager. And I thought they had a great preseason. We played them in Australia and they beat us pretty comfortably. So I thought they were, but they haven't really signed anybody. I mean, they got Martinez and they got the left back the left back, but they really haven't signed anybody. Yeah, right. And the thing is, they're betting. He's put all his eggs into the De Jong basket, and that's a massive, massive issue for me, because clearly the manager wants De Jong. Feels he can build a whole team around De Jong. Without De Jong coming in, I think they're in big trouble. I really do. I think they're in massive trouble. Say it again.
It's back to McFred. It's back to the
exactly. I mean, think about it. I mean, I think last week it was the exact same lineup they had that they ended up the season with last year. As far as I think they made
the false nine. It was
right, exactly right. Because they had no centre forward because Ronaldo didn't start. But they had. I mean, it looks really bad. And again, I don't like United at all. I'm happy to see him. I would love to get Wan-Bissaka back from them for Palace. Honestly, if he comes back on loan, because they don't want him anymore. But I just think they're in big trouble. I think they're going to have to start Ronaldo tomorrow. I'll be shocked if he doesn't start. He's going to have to. He's going to have to just, take that and take that, bite that bullet and say, he needs to start tomorrow, because you can't play that false nine. It was useless last week. It didn't work. I mean, I'm not even United don't even they're not City. They don't play with a false nine. So to see the play they played in the false nine last week, it just made no sense. But to me, that they're in big trouble. And again, that whole I mean, people make fun of that whole McFred midfield is just not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough to win any matches. They're just McTominay. It's no chance. They won't. I don't think they can finish top 6. They'll be looking to make the Conference League next season. That's how bad they are this year. I'm being so.
No,
to
that's
me,
fair.
They could be in it this year, to be fair, Patrick, if they finish third in their group.
Yeah, great point.
Could be in it this year, to be fair.
Jack, their midfield 3 could be McRabiot.
And that's another one. Getting Rabiot in. I mean, Rabiot in. What is that about? I mean,
McFredio.
Not to.
No, it's McFrediot, is it? I think
Not to plug my own podcast too much on it, but we were talking about this on Tuesday when we were looking at the game. We were saying that if you replace, why would you get rid of Pogba? Right, whatever you think about Pogba, why would you get rid of him and then bring in Rabiot? If you want a player like Rabiot, just keep Paul Pogba. I know whatever you say about him,
exactly,
that's not an improvement in any way. I don't even think De Jong's an improvement, because he's not what they need. He's a good player. He's not what they need. They've been crying out for years for a decent holding midfielder. That's Maguire looked. I mean, he is awful. It was okay for us, but he's not worth 80 million quid. But they would be so much better with a proper screen in front of the back four. You look at all the best sides, City had Fernandinho, Rodri. When we won the league, we had Kante. Even now we've got Ndidi, makes our centre halves look better. You've got Fabinho. Right. Arsenal have got Thomas Partey, but less said about him, the better at the moment. But you need that type of player to screen you. And United just don't have it. They had Matic, but he was 50 years old.
Couldn't run, couldn't move.
They need that player, but they don't have it. On a side note, though, I will say, I know obviously I like what Brentford are doing as well, but for an hour last week, and this makes our result look even worse, for an hour last week, they were awful. I'm not joking. They were so poor. And then they made 5 subs. We made 1 on a really hot day, and the proof's in the pudding about what happens next. So if United don't get a result against them, I think if Damsgaard comes in, he could make a difference. He could be that spark in the midfield. But if United don't get a result against them, I don't think it's panic stations, but it ain't a good start. It is not a good look either.
No, it's not. I mean,
it's the type of game that they will win, though.
Yeah,
I
think they'll win. I think they'll get a win, but I think they'll have to work for it.
Oh, absolutely.
The gamble with Damsgaard is he missed 5 months with aggressive arthritis.
Right.
And it's apparently he's had treatment and it is treatable, but that's the gamble. And it is huge. If it pays off, great. Happy days. They'll cash in and he'll be a 40, 50 million pound player. I think he's a smart bit. I think he's a great little player. It's smart, but it has to work. And I think Thomas Frank's job depends on it.
Interesting.
It's one of those signings that if the manager pushed for it, then by hook or by crook, you're judged by your dealings in the window, and it could.
Don't tell Brendan Rodgers that, otherwise he is losing his job, isn't he? Bloody hell.
I think Brentford's business has been good. Business has been good. Got Ben Mee.
Yeah.
On paper, it looks brilliant, doesn't it? They look like they've strengthened a lot, but I think
second season. I think it's the thing we saw it with Leeds last year. Second season, it's one of those. I still think United go there and get a win. I've got it down as a 3-2. I don't know about you guys if you were putting a scoreline on it. I think it'll be one of those crazy games.
Yeah, 2-2. Because you're not
Patrick.
2-1 Brentford.
Fair shout.
Yes, go on.
Strong.
And then the good news, they play who next week? Liverpool, right? For that, that was 3 on the bounce.
That's going to be.
Then they're in trouble.
Well, in fairness, they're already planning their walkout for that game.
Good point.
Ten Hag might need to be careful about that job, because he could.
I'll tell you what. Now is a great time to be investing in green and yellow scarves.
Not sure if it's a typo. Not sure if it's a typo, but in the chat, Bonkers LFC says 31-1 to Brentford. I don't know if that's a bit. There it is on the screen. That'd be a result and a half. That would. Don't think that's happening though. Don't think that's happening personally. But if it does, I'll hold my hands up.
Laszlo going 2-1. Bonker's going 3-1.
There we go.
3-1.
There you go.
A lot of love for Brentford in there, and I mean, Jack,
all I've done is read the comments and just seen everyone slating Leicester. Brentford come along, and they're the best thing since sliced bread. I can't.
But Jack,
I'm not coming on here again, Kev. I'm not coming on again.
BA, we love you really. You've seen Brentford more than any of us because look, I mean, they were shady, you said, but they've still got the bottle. They've still got the bottle to be able to pull results back.
I mean, when you let them just play football, when you just let them play, like I mean, any team in the Premier League, if you just let them do what they want to do, then they will hurt you. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. We could have played against. I mean, you look at Villa.
Do that for them.
But you look at Bournemouth. Like I'm not like Bournemouth. Everyone had them down as finishing 20th this season, didn't they? Let's be honest. Like when you looked and Villa were awful, and Bournemouth beat them 2-0. Like it doesn't matter who you play against in the Premier League. Everyone is there on merit. Like if you did, like because that's what happened. We were absolutely dominating the game. We should have been 3 or 4-0 up. That's not a could have been. It's a should have been.
Right.
Like, and we ended up drawing the game 2-2 because, like Brendan Rodgers doing Brendan Rodgers things, isn't it? Like it wasn't the players that lost us that game. It was the fact that he made 1 sub and they made 5. But until that, even afterwards, it was because we stepped off that they kind of remind me of Burnley in the sense that they're very resolute. They all know their jobs. They're well drilled. They understand the task that's at hand. And Thomas Frank is a very astute manager. I think they're better than Burnley, but they remind me of that in terms of their like just the way that they approach the game is that they know their strengths and they stick to them.
Crikey. Okay, listen. We're going to finish it up. Just wanted to touch on the fantasy league. It's still open. You guys can still join, but there is going to be something coming down the line for the people who were there on week 1. But that'll be coming in the next few weeks. At the minute, the leader in our league is a team named Touching Cloth AFC. Love the name. I tell you, some of these team names, man, are original as you like. He's on 92 points. Devon Locke is on 91.
He's triple captained it first week, haven't they? That's
Darwiner takes it all, 89. Spurs of the Poos, 87. Arteta Young Guns, 87. Darwinism FC, 87. The thing is, down to... where are we? Down to 27th is 80 points. I think the only advice I give anyone going into this, stick to your guns for the first 5 or 6 weeks. Don't make any drastic changes to your 11.
I have.
You would. In fairness, Luke, after all of the games were played last week on the Saturday, was lying in second. Proud as punch. Giving it, I messaged him. I messaged him and I said, Christ, you're doing really well for someone who said he was absolutely geeking it.
I am.
And then Haaland played.
Kane got instantly removed, and Haaland was in vice captain already, ready for Bournemouth.
Quick hot takes on Erling Haaland, guys. What do you think?
Unbelievable.
Just quick hot takes.
Hey, you don't score 84 and 88 if you're not a world class player. Sorry, you just don't.
Do you think he can stay fit for a season, given in mind it will be the first time in his career that he'll be playing in a team that's going in 4 fronts?
That's the only issue for me is staying healthy. That aside, he'll score tons of goals. Tons of goals.
I think Pep will rotate him in and out. He's not going to the World Cup. And as you saw against West Ham,
great point. Yeah.
Barely touched the ball. 2 shots on target, 2 goals. Okay, and there he scored a penalty. But
the second goal was like he does it in his sleep. He just went. He didn't. It was so nonchalant, wasn't it? He just was like.
If you ever played FIFA, that goal was somebody flipping an offside trap.
Exactly.
And you just beat the offside trap. You're sat there. You're like, yes. Ball roll, scoop, and you're straight in. It's just one of those nuts. It was so bad. The defending was so bad. But yeah, I think for how good he was, I can't get over how bad West Ham were and how weak and toothless they were.
People are going to fit in even deeper because no one's they're going to see that game and think, we're going to need to set even deeper because we can't even have a high line because all it's going to be is
No,
ball over the
destroy,
top, and Haaland's going to be sprinting through.
Yeah. And
One
do you know the beauty of it? Fastest player in the Premier League this weekend,
Darwin Nunez.
Amazing.
So I think just on that note about Haaland, do you know what I think is really interesting though is that because he's that player, and you're saying everyone will sit deep, and everyone goes, "Oh, Man City are going to have to adapt their game," but what will happen is defenders will be so preoccupied by trying to stop Haaland, it will allow those players in behind to have more time on the ball.
Riyad Mahrez must be licking his chops. Riyad Mahrez
so
must be licking his chops.
And Phil Foden as well. 85 minutes, and like when you listen to Haaland speak about Pep, like he knows Pep's the top dog. There's going to be no Zlatan-esque egos. He's probably been told there's going to be some games you're going to be sitting on the bench. Like it would not surprise me if he sits on the bench against Liverpool because Pep wants to play a false nine to control the midfield, and then he comes off the bench. And as long as Haaland's all right with that, then he'll be fine at City. He'll do fine at City.
Alvarez looks a player as well. Alvarez.
I was literally just going to say it. Julian Alvarez. There's one of the regulars on Daytrippers, Keith Plunkett. He's massive on South American football, and he's been waxing lyrical about this kid for a while. I think City have got an absolute bargain. This kid is going to be a 70, 80 million pound regular for Argentina in the next couple of years. I can't believe they got him so cheap. It's sickens my proverbials that he got him.
They do shop from South America quite well. I mean, they picked up Jesus for reasonably cheap as well. Was it like 20 mil, 25, something like that?
Yeah.
Which in hindsight is actually a bargain, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And double their money to his best mate in London.
Arteta.
Listen, on that note, I just want to thank everyone for coming on. If Luke, what have you got planned for the weekend?
I haven't got anything planned for the weekend. I'm quite busy.
No UFC? No watch
there's an event on, but the big one's next week, and I'll be doing content around it. It's a fight night tomorrow, which I'll watch, but I won't do any content for it.
What's coming up next weekend? Quickly, because even though it's not Sports Unplugged anymore, it's still got
it's UFC 2. I think it's 278. 278, and it's Usman versus Leon Edwards, Britain's Leon Edwards, shot at welterweight gold. So I hope he wins it because I really want to see Usman get knocked out because he's cringy as F.
And you'll be doing the watch along with Callum on the Sanderson show.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And Patrick, where can people find you and your content and what you're going to be doing?
So I'm part of the Back of the Nest team. So we have a YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a post-match Monday evening after the Liverpool game. And we do podcast available on Spotify, etc. That will be available on Tuesday. And we do our crew does a preview of the game. The Liverpool one came out today. So check out your local.
Please go and check out these guys' channels as well, because look, they've been fantastic in giving up their time to us on a Friday night. We really, really appreciate it. So please go and show them some support. It would really help them out a lot. And Jack, where can people find you guys?
So we've got content on both YouTube and Spotify. We try and release about twice a week. So we're called the Talking Ballacks podcast. You can find us on Twitter at the Ballacks Pod. That is where you find us. It's myself and a really good friend of mine who's a Newcastle United fan called Ewan, and we absolutely love talking about football. So if you enjoy that too, then feel free to check us out.
Yeah, I've actually watched some of these guys' stuff, and it is worth it. It is really good. Definitely worth a follow, and definitely hit the subscribe button on their channels as well, guys. When the links come up, you'll get their stuff. It is worth investing a bit of time and watching their stuff. They're really, really good at what they do. Anyone who's in the channel regularly knows now that super chats are off, and they're off for a reason, because what we're doing is we're trying to push to raise money for Bobby's Wish to Walk. And I checked before we came on tonight, and at the minute he's sat on €116,000 to get to 150,000 to get to America for an operation. it will alleviate the spasticity in his legs that will enable him to live as normal a life as possible. And the treatment isn't available in Ireland or the UK. The treatment is only available in Cincinnati. It's the last push now, guys. The link is in the description. Bobby's Wish to Walk, the GoFundMe. If you can donate, I know times are hard, but if you can donate, that's great. If you can't donate, then please just copy the link, share it onto your socials, share it into your WhatsApps, get the word out, spread it far and wide. Watch the link, watch the video on the GoFundMe page, and you'll see Bobby for yourself. And follow him on Instagram and on social medias as well, and you'll get a real feel for what the kid's like. He's a fantastic kid. We've done this before with Sienna. I know we can get over the line. It's already been accepted for the operation, so it's just getting the funds now, you know, and it's a combination effort between ourselves and a lot of people, and we're just trying to do our part, and hopefully you can give him the last push and get him off to Cincinnati. Hopefully before, it'd be lovely to get him back before the winter, you know, so he can have his Christmas at home with his family and get the rehab going and all of that. So any help that you guys can do would be fantastic. Just wanted to thank you all for coming on. It's the first time that we've had Patrick and Jack on. I really hope it's not the last. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Luke, we will see you again soon. Yep. And thank you very much for all of your comments. It's been a really enjoyable show. Loved it. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.